Hello friends, Matt Wilson here with this week's rock video. In this case, we're going to look at Fleetwood Mac in the 60s and the 70s, another legendary British or British/American band. Still around, right? I mean, are they still touring? Lindsey Buckingham currently not in the band, not working out with Stevie or whatever, but anyways, we're just going to look at the first 2 decades of the band. I'm not getting into the 80s. That's when my interest begins to wane. They were already superstars by then, and there's a bit of coasting. But let's just talk about Fleetwood Mac from 67 through 1979. I'm going to start with the complete Blue Horizon set, which I recommend. If you want to look at the Peter Green era, it doesn't contain Then Play On. This is it. I mean, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to show you guys what the albums look like. There's what is it, 6 CDs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 CDs, which might be more Peter Green, era Mac than you think that you need, especially one that doesn't even contain their best album from his time with the band. But Peter Green was a phenomenal guitar player. He a bit of background first. He first made his name with the John Mayall band on one album, A Hard Road. A Hard Road, yeah, which is a really good record. He's the guy that took Eric Clapton's place, but he also made any number of recordings with Mayall and his group, which surfaced on later records like oh man, I just played these albums the other day too. There's 2 John Mayall compilations through the years and looking back. Ooh, I think I got those too. Anyways, excellent recordings that Green made. They're not all Peter Green era songs on those 2 Mayall compilations, but if you want to look at that aspect of Green's career, you cannot ignore the John Mayall era. Okay, so this is the first one. 1967, no glare. It's called Fleetwood Mac, although I could have swore growing up they called this Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. I don't know if any LP covers were made with that title, but anyways, it's another British blues album where they do mostly cover versions. Folks, I'm not even gonna try to read this, but what I have, I'm gonna look at the booklet. Oh, actually, I don't need to look at the booklet. I can look at the CD because the font is bigger. See guys, this is what I'm reading. I can read the CD, right? Or I can try to read that. Anyways, there's not too much in terms of original songs that are great on here. And they do, it reminds me of the kind of British Invasion album which was popular a few years before 67, like I've been showing you guys with the Stones, the Kinks, although Ray Davis was always a good. Animals, Yardbirds, where they would do mainly covers of black music from America, peppered with a few originals. That's how this is. So if you're, a lover of British blues, you're gonna like Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac. But looking at this, Long Gray Mirror. Yeah, Green also had the ability to write blues songs in the manner of classic American blues songs. He was, one of those devotees that, and he had his own tone. That's how you can spot a Peter Green song. Is he played slow, but he can rip it up too. Going back to the Mayall stuff, there's a big box set of John Mayall albums. You know the one I'm talking about. It's huge, and it's got every Mayall record through 74, I think. And there's some excellent live recordings on there of Peter Green, of Mick Taylor. Not well recorded. Certainly wouldn't have been suitable for release. But Peter Green could rip it up live. More so, I think, than he did on studio LPs. So anyways, I know I'm drifting off from this. This is good. You got Jeremy Spencer, who was the other guitar player in the Mac at the time, doing his Elmore James riff in almost every song. It doesn't ruin it for me though. You know, it's good. Peter would get better with the band, but I think it's a better record than Mr. Wonderful, which this is how you hold it, but would be, you can see Mick, how skinny he was at the time. Mr. Wonderful's pretty good, but not as good as the debut record. Need Your Love Tonight, Coming Home, okay. Well, Love That Burns, that's a Peter Green. You know how I was just telling you that Peter Green could write songs which were very much in keeping with real classic African-American blues songs? Love That Burns, that's one of them. Nice, beautiful tone, lots of feeling, you know, one would almost say pathos. There's a famous anecdote that people like to talk about when they mention Green, that because Fleetwood Mac used to tour with B.B. King, and so B.B. King would watch Peter play on I assume on a nightly basis, and he has said he was the only one of those white guitar players or white English guitar players who made him sweat, who made B.B. King sweat. You know, now does that mean Peter Green was the best of them all? You know, make up your own mind about that. But and also that he was the one who B.B. was seeing every night. But you know, that's a high compliment. So I'm going to say Mr. Wonderful, not as interesting as as Fleetwood Mac, the album, but still worth your time. Get this box set. Really, you can't go wrong with it. The sound quality is good. There's bonus tracks on all this stuff, and it nicely fills that hole in your collection where you think that Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac should be. The third album, The Pious Bird of Good Omen, I'm not even sure is a real album. I think if memory serves, Blue Horizon released this because the band had signed to Reprise and they were about to release Then Play On, which was a better album than any of these Blue Horizons albums. And so this was hastily assembled. I don't think that these songs were recorded with the intent of making an album. But having said that, it's got Black Magic Woman, it's got Albatross, second version of Need Your Love So Bad. So if you thought that this was as good as the two previous, or even better because it contains those two songs, I'm not going to yell at you. Fleetwood Mac, probably in England, it's important to say, were maybe primarily conceived of, or not conceived of, thought of as a singles band, because they had big hits there. They did not break the American market in the 60s or even the early 70s. So their popularity here was more on an underground level. But they came here, they toured, they played with other artists here. But Black Magic Woman, was a hit for them. Of course, Santana later covered that. Albatross is a beautiful... I almost wonder, did I read that the Beatles were thinking about Albatross when they did one of those songs on Abbey Road? Was it Sun King? I don't remember now. Anyways, great singles. And then Oh Well, we'll talk it to in a second. Green Manalishi. So yeah, they had really cool 45s during Peter's era with the band, to the point to where many people I know, many Brits mostly, consider the Peter Green era to be the best era of the band. But I hope that they don't think that because there's no American influence, because Peter Green was very influenced by American music. All right, so that's half the box right there. Then they also give you these two Blues Jam in Chicago albums, which, folks, I don't really remember when these were released. I assume the early 70s. They weren't released way after the fact, I don't think. I don't remember these albums growing up. But they're interesting. It's the band doing these songs with Chicago bluesmen. I'm pretty sure Buddy Guy is on these recordings, because his name stands out last. Oh, well, there you go. Otis Spann, Willie Dixon, Honeyboy Edwards, S.P. Leary, that's the second volume. Wow. Guitar Buddy. Pretty sure that means buddy guy. God, what if I'm wrong? Oh well, wouldn't be the first time. So I like them. They're not essential. I think this in some ways could be better. This, I know this was released in the early 70s. This is the original Fleetwood Mac, 71 maybe. Well, you know what I remember this album for? There's a song called Fleetwood Mac. These recordings were not deemed releasable on, by Blue Horizon in the 60s, but they made it onto this album, once the Mac was on reprise. Some of the songs are pretty good, and that song Fleetwood Mac, that's a highlight for me of the Peter Green era. So I don't know if I would strongly recommend these 3 discs on their own, like if you want to just pick them up. But if you're going to get them in this box set, everything's remastered, and it's got a nice little booklet, which I probably should have been referring to when I was doing this portion of the show. Yeah, pick it up. I hope it's not out of print, but for some reason I don't think that something like this would be really expensive, even if it was out of print. Okay, then before we leave the Green Era behind, there's of course Then Play On. Then Play On, that's the best one that Peter Green made with the band. It's the closest thing to a classic he made. What's on here? You know what? I pretty much like all these songs. In terms of really, Rattlesnake Shake, his song about masturbation, is good. But there's nothing bad on here. And then as bonus tracks, you get both versions of Oh Well, the 40, well, not both versions, A and B, part 1 and part 2. You get the Green Man Alicia, which came out in 1970, which had to be like the last thing that Peter recorded with the band. Great songs. To talk about Oh Well, that's the riff song, which I know you've heard before. Other artists have covered it. Judas Priest covered Green Man Alicia, didn't they? Yeah. Gotta do a Judas Priest show one day. One of my favorite metal bands. Anyway, that Oh Well song originally was broken up into 2 sides, A and B, on a 45. When you hear tracks where they combine the 2, it's not that great. They mess with it. They extend that second part goes on too long. I think I've heard homemade versions of Oh Well where it gives you all of side 1 and part of side 2, then they fade it away. I think I like that better than just listening to part 1 and part 2 back to back, because part 2 does go on a long time. But it's still, it's if you wanted to argue that was Peter Green's best song with the band, I don't think I would argue with that. I don't think I would debate that. Okay. This is truly going to be the last thing I'm going to talk about before we leave the Peter Green era behind. This is the Fleetwood Mac set of the Boston recordings they made. Ooh, it goes together, doesn't it? This is live in 1970. I can't even see now. Ooh, you know what, guys? I don't think I could hold this up so you guys could see it, but how's that? All right. It's 3 CDs live in Boston. You want to hear Peter Green live with Fleetwood Mac, this is where you go to. I'm sure that there are other things out there, but, this is pretty smoking. Look at that. There's a almost 13-minute version of Green Man Alicia. I can't see. That alone just looks like it's, Black Magic Woman for 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Rattlesnake Shake for over 24 minutes. Some people might think that was excessive. This is not all one show. There's some 50s songs on here that they do. Wow, here's another 25 and a half minute version of Rattlesnake Shake. They liked that one, didn't they? Oh Well for only 3.5 minutes. Anyways, Fleetwood Mac, Boston, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Now we can leave the Peter Green era behind. For years, you could not get the first half of the 70s Fleetwood Mac albums on CD remastered. Well, for the past few years, you can. This is what I'm going to recommend to you guys. Fleetwood Mac, 1969 to 1974. It also has Then Play On. Sound quality is good. It's good enough, you know. I mean, this is just like I recommend that Blue Horizons sessions for the Peter Green era. I recommend this. Since the Blue Horizons box set doesn't have Then Play On, and this one does, you need them both. It is the perfect way to, you know, take you up until 1975, the Fleetwood Mac album. So let's go through this. Like I said, first you get the Then Play On in the UK version, the UK track listing. That's the one you want, folks. The American one, which is the first one that I ever heard. No. Then you get Kiln House, another beautiful album cover. Kiln House is a favorite among a lot of Mac fans. I'm less persuaded about this. It's good. Peter's gone. You know, Jeremy's gone too, right? I don't remember now. My Mac lore should be higher, but the songs are fine. I'm gonna look at the booklet because it's easier to read. Well, Station Man is classic Mac. That's well, look at that, Danny Kerwin and Jeremy Spencer. So I guess he's still around. July Judy, that's a great one too. The rest of the album is just pretty good. The bonus tracks, it's got Dragonfly, which I'm pretty sure was a 45 at the time, or maybe just a B-side. There was at the time in 1971 a great Fleetwood Mac's Greatest Hits album, which had the singles, the 45s. That was the way. In fact, I liked that album more than I liked any actual Fleetwood Mac album at the time. I probably would still say that. If you see the Mac as a 45 kind of band at that time, it's hard to dispute that. I don't have it now because, I mean, I have all those songs on I think I have all those songs on other CDs remastered, so I don't need it. But anyways, I'm iffy on Kiln House. It's pretty good, but I rarely want to pull it out and play it, not as compared to Then Play On anyway. All right, we have Future Games. You get this yellow cover. I think it has a white cover after that. I think most of the times you see this album, it's got the white cover. I want to say this is the original cover, but I could be wrong. I'm going to say this is a little bit better than Kiln House. This is 71. No famous songs, but I think that it holds together better. It's more consistent. But, and I don't want to go through this too fast, but I do feel like I need to tell you guys, even better is Bare Trees from 72. This is a good one. If I was going to recommend an early 70s Fleetwood Mac album, it would be Bare Trees. I like Sunny Side of Heaven. Again, Danny Kerwin, probably making the most of his time here. Sentimental Lady. Oh, you know, Bob Welch is in the band now. And he was an American, was he the first American to be in the band? Anyways, just again, showing the hands across the water approach that the band had. It's just a good, solid record of songs, with the exception of Sentimental Lady that you don't hear on the radio. So it's going to surprise you. Yeah, I'm going to say Bare Trees is a highlight of their post Then Play On, pre Fleetwood Mac in 75 career. All right. Okay, then you come to a series of records here. They did Penguin and Mystery to Me, both in 73. I like both of them while not loving either one. I know there's people out there who this is their favorite era of the Mac. Not so much the Green era, not the Stevie and Lindsay era, this era. And certainly if you want to hear just albums that are good with not that many radio songs, this is, here's a nice picture of them. This is the place to go. Penguin, let me see what's on Penguin. Like I said, both came out in 73. Yeah, you know what? None of these songs are really. Chrissy McVie coming forward as a songwriter at this point. You still got Bob Welch. They're all kind of taking a hand here. Here's a song by Chrissy McVie and Bob Welch doing a Motown cover. You know, they seem to be those two kind of leading the band at this time. Mystery to Me, with that interesting LP cover, is I'll show you guys these things. Is about the same. Emerald Eyes, I like. That's a Bob Welch number. Oh, it's got Hypnotized, another Bob Welch song. That is the only song I think from this era that they used to play on American radio. So you know what? For that alone, and Emerald Eyes, maybe, I'm gonna say I like Mystery to Me more than Penguin. Yeah, the rest of the songs are all fine. Oh, they do a cover of For Your Love. I forgot about that. Oh, that was even a single. Mono promo edit. So there you go. You know, again, I know people, because I know a lot of people who discuss rock with me, who think this is the era for Fleetwood Mac. You know, I'm not one of those guys. I like this stuff. I appreciate it, you know, more than I love it. Okay. Heroes Are Hard to Find. How many Fleetwood Mac album covers had Mick Fleetwood on the cover? There's this one. There's Mr. Wonderful. He's on the cover of Rumors with Stevie, with his tall, thin, scarecrow-looking body. That's another one which is, you know, just kind of pretty good. Heroes Are Hard to Find is not bad. Coming Home. Yeah, not too many songs are really standing out to me. This came out in 74. What's amazing to me is they sensed this was probably one fairly average album too many, you know, or one above average album too many. They knew that they needed fresh blood. So, oh my God, I forgot to bring out the Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham album. Oh well. Well, anyways, one more disc before we leave this box behind. This is live from the record plant, December 15th, 1974. Again, this is before, you know, Lindsey and Stevie. It's pretty good though. Again, they're still doing older numbers: Green Manalishi, Sentimental Lady, Black Magic Woman, with Oh Well, then Rattlesnake Shake, then Hypnotize. Nice little set. Okay, so that ends that era. Now, like I was saying earlier, they decide that they need some fresh blood. They contact, wow, was it Lindsey Buckingham first? Or was it Stevie first? I want to say it was Lindsey, who recommended that they take his girlfriend at the time, Stevie Nicks. Wow, what an infusion of fresh blood into the band. They had released an album together, Lindsey and Stevie, which is pretty good. I'm struggling to think if it's ever had an official CD release. I think the ones that you buy online, like I did, they're boots, I think, or they're CDs of dubious legality. But anyways, the album's not bad. It's easily as good as the first half of the 70s Fleetwood Mac albums. And it sounds more like Fleetwood Mac from the second half of the 70s than any of the Fleetwood Mac albums from the first half of the 70s do. Did you follow what I'm saying? Anyways, Had I remembered, I would have pulled it out and showed you. But that's who you're dealing with, folks. A guy who can barely remember last week. All right, so 1975. This does me fine. This is a double disc. The album's just called Fleetwood Mac. Oh look, that's Mick. that's Fleetwood, and that's Mac. Mick is on the cover of this one too. This is a classic record. One could argue, well, I don't know if there are people out there, I'm sure there are, who argue that this is better than Rumors. Virtually this whole album was played on the radio. Monday Morning is great. Warm Ways, Blue Letter, Rhiannon is a classic. Over My Head's a classic. Say You Love Me, Landslide, wow. Sorry, damn sorry. In fact, those songs are as good as the best songs on Rumors. Okay, on this particular disc, you get a second CD, jams, single version of Rhiannon, single version of Over My Head, single version of Blue Letter, single version of Say You Love Me. So, yeah, I'm going to say this is essential. All right, Fleetwood Mac, this is a classic. This is a 5-star record, or close to it, in 1975. All right, Rumors. I have the same version as the previous album. It's a double disc set. The entire album of Rumors was played to death on the radio, then right through the 80s if you listen to classic rock radio. The songs are all ubiquitous. Secondhand News, Dreams, Never Going Back. Again, Don't Stop, Go Your Own Way, Songbird, Silver Springs, The Chain, You Make Love and Fun. I'm even gonna, etc. You know. There is a, wow, what is it? There's a B-side whose name is not coming to mind that was played all the time, which should have been on the album. It ain't coming to me. I thought it was Silver Springs, but I don't know anyway. Oh well. Total 5-star record. For people who only have one Fleetwood Mac album, I'll bet you this is it. You know, here is a DVD with a 5.1 mix, which didn't blow me away. The sound quality on this is not that great, but it's, you know, it'll get you where you want to go. Okay, and we're going to that's it, right? We're going to wrap this up. Ooh, 27 minutes. This will be my shortest video in a long time. This is Tusk. This is a double album. Came out in 1979. I think it's great. I'm a double album guy though. I like when you can have shorter songs, longer songs, faster songs, slower songs, and just kind of melt it all in a pot together. Doesn't have, of course, these albums never have the conciseness of you know, pristine single albums, but this is a good one. In the late 70s, you know, as the classic rock era is closing down, there weren't too many great double albums. You know, I mean, when you think of double, like London Calling, that was not a classic rock album. Now we might call it that. But the kind of people who were buying this in 1979 probably weren't buying London Calling, you know, or the Damned's Black Album in 1980, The River. You know, I mean, there were still great double albums being made, but they were starting to become less so. There's a lot of great songs on here, and what makes this cool, maybe cooler than the two previous records, is that there's really good songs on here which they did not play to death on the radio. Yeah, this had hits. Well, I know all these songs. Sarah was a hit, right? Sisters on the Moon, I used to hear. Well, was that it? And Tusk, the title track. But virtually every other song on here is good, worth your time. This is really a Lindsey Buckingham album. You know, he liked to experiment in the studio. He was really a pop craftsman. Really was a top tier songwriter for a decent length of time. And if you want to hear prime Lindsey Buckingham songs that they did not overplay in the 70s, this is where I would recommend that you look. Okay, so to wrap up, Fleetwood Mac were everywhere in the second half of the 70s. They were one of those rock bands that, girls really liked. I don't believe I ever knew a guy growing up who would say that the Mac were their favorite band, but they were like the Eagles, They had that male-female thing. They had that UK-US thing. It's like they were designed to appeal to everybody. You'll notice how I went right through Rumors and didn't even talk about, the drama behind those songs, the breakup of John and Christine and Lindsay and Steve. But that's a big part of the appeal of that record, I think. But those songs just stand up on their own. In fact, when thinking about male-female bands, they remind me of the Mamas and Papas, but they were better than the Mamas and Papas, And I love Mamas and Papas. I'm going to do a show on them one time too. So they had lots of success in the 80s, and after a while, the drama just, Stevie had a solo career, and then Lindsay would leave, and he'd have his solo career, and then he'd come back, and then now he's out, for good. I don't think, though, that they ever again essayed an album as good as those last three from the 70s. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, and Tusk. Those are, to my mind, those are all classics. Whether you think that they were overplayed or not at the time, again, as I'm always saying on these shows, it's not the fault of the album. And Tusk certainly was not overplayed. So, I like the conciseness of this video. I'm ending right now before it even gets to 32 minutes. Matt Wilson signing off.